What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie, and today I'm going to answer a question that I get all the time, and that is how to journal. How did I start journaling? What should I journal about? I don't journal right now. How did you get started? What are tips and tricks and stuff like that? So many questions about journaling, and that is because those of you who watch frequent or consistent videos of mine, you know that I am a huge fan of journaling, and I recommend it to anyone and everyone, but it comes in all shapes and sizes. I've done multiple videos before on how to get started journaling and things like that. Basically all you need is some form of pen and paper. You don't have to get fancy with it. You don't have to be into fountain pens. You don't have to be into fancy notebooks. Just any form of pen and paper will do. But I've never really answered how I went through the transition of starting to journal. You guys are well aware now that I use it to sort of process everything in my brain, anything I'm stressed, anxiety, fear, happy, anything. It's just how I am able to cope and keep my mental health in check. But that's not how I started. I didn't just fall into that. It sort of evolved to that over time. And so I thought I would show you a little bit about how I did that and actually read a little bit from the very first journal that I ever officially used. I've had journals before this, but this is the first one that actually turned into a consistent habit. This one I purchased in 2014 from Target, I believe. It was either Target just before it went under in Canada, or if it was before Target came. I think it was before Target came, so I think I bought this from Zellers, which only Canadians are going to understand. But anyways, it's not fancy. It's crappy paper. I think it's a knockoff Moleskine, to be honest. But I bought it because I was being sent to the States for a few weeks to get training for a job I had at the time. And I figured I'd probably need a notebook to take notes in. I didn't really use it. So what does it actually say? Markings, Gibbons, I don't know. So I didn't really use it. I only used it, to be honest, for like half a page. And that's about it. Everything was done on computers. So then, I mean, I'll cover a little bit here. Then, I mean, you can tell on this page already, like I basically just used it for random like test page stuff. Like I literally just wrote yeah over and over again in different pens. And so on December 30th, 2014, this is what I wrote over here. In terrible handwriting, by the way. Man, if you ever think that your handwriting is garbage, if you were a journaler, go back to like your first one, because whoa, was my writing bad. I think this journal will be my random journal for things that don't really have much purpose. That combined with my practice journal for calligraphy and whatnot. Ink on this paper does feather a bit, and I already have a journal for my novel and 2 traveler's notebooks for feeling/ink and pen thoughts. So that will be this journal's purpose, random/practice. So fun fact, I was writing a novel at the time, and I had a different journal that can really it can't handle fountain pens whatsoever. I pretty much stopped using that one, and I also pretty much stopped using the Traveler's ink ones because I don't particularly care for them. I've done a whole video on that as well. And then this basically just became me testing out different inks as a way to use different things. So I've got Kaweco cartridge, extra fine point, actually works really well on this paper. I'm impressed. It isn't scratchy, but there is a little bit of tooth and drag on the paper when going up or side. No bleed through. Monteverde Jewelleria does not feather on this paper to the naked eye. It is filled with private reserve spearmint in a fine nib. Glides better in cursive writing than the Kaweco, but the Kaweco feels better when printing. TWSBI Classic with a medium nib filled with Pilot Iroshizuku Yamabudo. Flows like butter like usual. No bleed through or ghosting, but does feather a bit. TWSBI Mini with a fine nib filled with J.Herbin Rouge Hematite. Ink flows very well, drags a little, but not bad. Again, no ghosting or bleed through, not even much feathering. And I continue on and on for several pens. And then I basically, oh boy, like I started writing like presents I was gonna get for people, just random scribbles all over the place, random thoughts that I had at the time. I started attempting to write left-handed for some reason, and then thought I'd get a little doodly on the other page. Like, apparently, yeah, it's not even focusing, that's how bad it is. And then I just got all kinds of messed up. Literally, all this is, well, my hand. And then I was watching TV, I think, based on the random things that I wrote here. Criminal Minds, I'm gonna guess. And I'm literally just writing quotes from the show. Random sentences, not even inspirational ones, just random sentences. Like, if he isn't a problem for you now, he will be. Guess it wasn't all clean. He was a mean son of a... Is that what you want to hear? Hey, where'd you get that? Don't eat that. The evil queen gives you... Oh, this is Once Upon a Time. That was Henry's line in the first episode, I think. The evil queen gives you an apple and you don't think anything of it. You've been hanging out with Dopey too much. Yes, that's Once Upon a Time. Oh, man. And literally, it's just page after page of random things. Like, basically just all show quotes. Like, I had a random thought, apparently, about the Kaweco Sport. So this is, just, again, random. This is a Kaweco Sport Black with an extra fine nib. I ordered my next one with a fine nib, so it'll be interesting to see the line difference, because for an extra fine nib, this line is pretty broad. I'd say it's closer to a true fine or a Japanese medium. Maybe a little narrower than a Japanese medium, but pretty dang close. Even on Rhodia paper where ink doesn't spread, it's very, very close to this line shown here in this lesser quality paper. Like, it's so silly. That was when I got highlighter ink and I was playing around with that, seeing what it would smear, what it wouldn't. I had no idea the difference between waterproof ink and not waterproof ink. Oh man. March 31st, 2015. Second travel day and the Lamy Safari fine nib is filled with Noodler's black ink. Still didn't explode or even burp into the cap. That's awesome. Ultimate test is to take it up high elevation. The Kaweco pen cap is clean as a whistle, and the nib is too. I'm impressed with how well they've fared with being jostled around in my backpack in the trunk of the car. Can't wait for my second Kaweco pen to come in. It'll be a mint color with a fine nib instead of an extra fine nib. It'll be interesting to compare the width line variation. I found that if you keep this pen nibbed down while uncapped, the ink will pool, so the first written word after will be a bit more saturated, but it is nothing that is too severe, because apparently I don't know how to spell. I won't have it for a few weeks probably, because random pen company that I won't tell you about takes their sweet time shipping things out, especially with the move that they're planning. I wish they'd hire someone to fulfill the orders they promise on their website to ship out orders in 2 to 3 days, but they're closer to 1 to 1.5 weeks. They're driving me crazy. Oh, TWSBI Mini is driving me nuts because it's leaking out of the grip section and is constantly needing to be cleaned and swabbed out. I've cleaned it out 100% already and it still does it. No other TWSBI pen does this, and this pen has done it since day one. I don't know what else I can do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Doesn't seem to matter if the nib's up or down. I've tried with multiple inks, taken it apart and cleaned it, but that doesn't matter. Slow leak under the grip section on the back part of the feed. That was the plastic TWSBI Mini that ended up being cracked in the collar that I didn't know about. But yeah. And then I basically just keep going on and on and on with like different pens, writing entire pages about what I think their performance is like. Like, this is literally all I did. I can't separate those pages, apparently. All I did for the first, like, quarter of this notebook. I didn't start getting into, like, journal type stuff until April of 2015. My order has finally shipped. Insert pen company should be here tomorrow, and I just ordered from another company today, so I should have it in about a week. The Knock, Lookout, and Nature Box are on their way as well, but they're still in the United States. I have a serious issue with buying things online. It's so easy, and you can do it from the comfortable bed that you sleep in every night. The downside is that you can spend a lot more money than you would in store. I think because it truly is virtual money, that at that point you aren't handing it physically over to another person. You don't really think about it until you look at your credit card bill. Oh, baby Carrie, you have no idea. I'm setting a commitment now to only buy pen stuff once a month now instead of several times a month and several days in a row. Several sites at a time. It's a serious problem. Really, I need an intervention. I did actually significantly start to slow down because things I got interested in became significantly more expensive. Okay, here's something that is writing in journals, even if it's just a ramble/nonsensical method of wasting time, it does require more brain activity to physically write something down than if you were to write it, or rather type it, into your computer. That said, it isn't the same as being able to learn something completely new and completely challenging. My 15-year-old self would roll her eyes at me for saying this, but I really regret not paying attention to French class when I was in school. Isn't that a complete cliche when I can't read my own writing. When you're older, you wish you could go back and tell your younger self that, hey, you're gonna regret this later, so pay attention. I guess this means I really am getting old. Oh, because I sound like my parents. When they always say things like, if only I knew that when I knew now. Typical. You say when you're young that you'll never say old things like that when you get old. Of course, old means 30. I'm older than that now. Oh my goodness. Okay, old means 30 at that time, and now I'm 26, so I'm very close. A few years and I'll actually be 30. I'll probably be looking back at when I was 26 and judge the decisions I'm making now. Oh my gosh, yes I am. Especially since I truly feel that I'm stuck in the fork in the road and I don't know which path to take. I'm old enough to know that I'm too young to know anything. And when I'm older, I'll think my current problems are way more intense than the problems my 26-year-old self have. The problems you face always seem worse than anything you've ever faced before because you're in the middle of it and you can't see the way out. Life can suck sometimes. I need to get better at finding the positive and not focusing so much on the negative. Girl, you have no idea what happens. Oh my goodness. And that pretty much is the beginning of how I started to journal. Because after that, I pretty much stopped writing necessarily all about pens and actually started properly journaling. I know every once in a while I started towards like once I finished my brain dump, I started then like talking about the pen itself, but that's usually just something that like I finished. Oh man, and I even wrote out the letter that I wrote to my peers when I quit my job. When was that? Well, the day I didn't date it, but the day before was Friday, April 24th, 2015. Wow. Wow. That's so crazy. Like, this is just a mind. This is also why I recommend journaling, because you can go back and do things like this. This is going to be a long video, so if you're still here, I love you. Bless your heart. Yeah. Well, yeah, what was the last day I wrote in here? Oh yeah, I even wrote a list of things to pack for when I went to Newfoundland. Monday, June 22nd, 2015 is the last thing I wrote in here. I'm so nervous. I leave for the airport in a little over an hour. I'm all packed up and now have nothing to do but wait and pray for no cancellation or delays for a turbulence-free flight. I don't remember whether it was or not. So many things to do. I really don't want any delays or cancellations because there's supposed to be some pretty powerful storms to roll through in about an hour or two when I'm supposed to take off. Fingers crossed. On a different note, this notebook is officially done and Rhodia one is up next, already packed and ready for travel. I went with a Pilot Metropolitan, Lamy All-Star, and a Mint Kaweco Sport with cartridges. On to new beginnings. Kind of cool. I will start it in Newfoundland. Now to fly. And that is all she wrote, folks. So, gosh, it is a blast to go through old journals because, I mean, obviously I had a good laugh so far, but it really does help give you perspective on where you are now, the problems that you had then versus now. And I mean, my 26-year-old self was right. The problems that we have now are way worse than the problems I had back then, which was pretty much just whether or not to leave my job because I was miserable and some other things too, but that was a big contributing factor. The first chunk of this wasn't actually journaling at all. It was just using my pens and writing about my pens. So maybe start with that. Get a notebook, get a pen, and just start writing about what you're physically writing with and see what that turns into. Because that took me clearly from about 26. I'm 31 now. And I don't think that I could have gotten through any of that time without journaling. It's also a great excuse to still use your pens. So if you're still watching this, bless you. Thank you so much for sticking with me this whole time. I really appreciate it. Let me know if you've started journaling or if you've journaled forever, what your strategies are. Help each other out in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more like it every Monday and Friday. And guys, I'll see you next time.